Okay, so let's dive into Osho.
Yeah.
You send over this text, and it tries to get past all the all the headlines and controversies. And honestly, I gotta say, I'm hooked already just from reading this.
Interesting.
Like, this isn't just some spiritual leader.
Right.
He's been called controversial cult leader, even the Mafia of the spiritual world.
Wow.
So I have a feeling this is going to be a pretty wild ride.
What I find really striking is how the text just acknowledges all that controversy right up front.
Right.
It's not trying to sugarcoat anything.
Yeah.
It's more like, come on, let's just dive in.
Yeah.
Are you ready to see what's beneath the surface?
Totally. And one of the first things that really caught my eye was this description of Osho as like a teacher / stand-up comedian.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not exactly the image that pops into my head when I think spiritual guru.
Right. It makes you wonder, what was he trying to achieve with that kind of approach? Think about the effect humor has.
Yeah.
It disarms you. It breaks down your kind of mental barriers. And suddenly you're way more open to hearing things that maybe you would just dismiss before.
Yeah, it's like sneaking in the vegetables with a delicious sauce.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
You don't even realize you're getting something good for you.
Exactly.
And it's not a new tactic either.
Oh, right.
If you think about it, Socrates was famous for his irony.
Right.
Using it to challenge assumptions. And even more recently, you have someone like Richard Feynman.
Oh, yeah.
This brilliant physicist.
Yeah.
And he could explain some of the most mind-boggling concepts with clarity and humor.
Okay, so Osho's in good company there.
Right.
But then the text goes into this idea that he believed that he was never born, never died.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Now, I've heard that concept before, but honestly, it always makes my head spin a little bit.
Have you encountered this idea of pure consciousness?
Yeah.
In other spiritual traditions?
I think so.
How do you think Osho's interpretation differs? And what implications does this have for how we live our lives? It's not about a literal birth or death, right?
Yeah.
It's about tapping into that level of awareness that's beyond our perception of time.
So if we're always connected to this pure consciousness, does time even really exist?
That's a question, isn't it?
Is it all just an illusion?
He believed that what we perceive as time is really just a construct of our minds.
Okay.
True consciousness operates beyond those limitations.
Yeah.
And, it's a concept that echoes across various traditions, Hinduism, Buddhism, even certain Western philosophies.
Okay.
Yeah.
It definitely challenges the way we typically think about things.
For sure.
Now, the text also goes into Osho's more provocative side.
Yeah.
Talking about his, deliberate challenges to societal norms. He seemed to really enjoy shaking things up.
He did, but it wasn't just about shock value for its own sake.
Right.
You have to understand why he chose to provoke.
He saw it as a way to disrupt complacency. He wanted people to question everything.
Yeah.
Everything they thought they knew about life, about spirituality, about the whole game.
Almost like he was saying, wake up.
Yeah.
Stop sleepwalking through your existence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can see that in everything, from his flamboyant lifestyle to his critiques of institutions. He was constantly poking at those sacred cows, trying to get people to see things from a fresh perspective.
Which is probably why the text calls them the Mafia of the spiritual world.
That's a good one.
That's one heck of a metaphor.
And a very fitting one, right?
Yeah.
It gets at that boldness, that willingness to break the mold.
Right.
To operate outside the rules of what a spiritual teacher was supposed to be. He wasn't afraid to ruffle some feathers.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And that leads us to one of the most controversial aspects of Osho's teachings.
Yeah.
His views on sex and spirituality.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting.
The text mentions his book, Sex Matters, from sex to superconsciousness. And let's just say he doesn't shy away from the topic.
He doesn't beat around the bush, that's for sure.
Not at all.
Why do you think that is?
Well, it seems like he saw sex as a fundamental part of the human experience.
Okay.
Not something to be demonized or repressed.
Exactly. And he even went so far as to say that if approached consciously, it could actually become a pathway to enlightenment.
Wait, so instead of seeing sex as a distraction from spirituality,
right,
he saw it as a potential tool for spiritual growth?
Yeah.
That's a pretty radical idea.
It is, and one that challenges a lot of traditional thinking around both sex and spirituality.
Yeah.
He believed that the energy and intensity of sexual experience could be transmuted into a higher form of consciousness.
I can see how that would be a controversial idea for many.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious about his approach to teaching.
Okay.
The text mentions how Osho would actually throw out followers who became too reliant on him.
Yeah, like that seems counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
You'd think a spiritual teacher would want to keep their followers close.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's almost like he was saying, okay, you learned enough now, go out and figure things out for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He recognized the dangers of guru worship.
Right.
Even when the guru has good intentions.
Yeah.
He wanted his students to become their own teachers, to develop their own understanding, not just parrot his words.
So it was about encouraging independence, helping people find their own path instead of blindly following someone else's.
Think of it this way.
Yeah.
If you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day.
Yeah.
But if you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime.
I see what you're getting at.
Right.
Osho wasn't interested in creating followers. He wanted to empower people to think for themselves.
Exactly.
Which actually connects back to something else the text highlights. His ability to convey these like profound truths in a simple, accessible way.
It's a common thread we see in great thinkers and communicators throughout history. That ability to take something very complex and make it clear and compelling.
Yeah, we talked about Socrates and Feynman earlier.
Right.
But you see it in writers like Carl Sagan or Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh, for sure.
Who can explain these like mind-boggling scientific concepts in a way that anyone can grasp.
Yeah, they make it seem effortless.
They really do.
Yeah.
And in Osho's case, it allowed him to reach a wider audience with his teachings. It didn't matter what your background was or how much you already knew about spirituality. You can still connect with his message.
Absolutely. It was about meeting people where they were at and then gently nudging them to expand their horizons.
Okay, so we've explored Osho's unique approach to spirituality, his controversial views, and his impactful teaching style.
Right.
But I can't help but wonder if he were alive today, what aspects of modern society do you think he would target?
Let's play devil's advocate for a moment.
Okay.
If Osho were to critique our reliance on technology, what specific arguments might he make that would resonate with even the most tech-savvy listener?
Okay.
I mean, we're talking about someone who is deeply critical of anything that he saw as hindering individual freedom and self-awareness.
Well, I can imagine him railing against the constant distractions, the information overload, the way technology can disconnect us from genuine human connection.
Precisely.
Right.
He might even question our blind faith in scientific progress.
Yeah.
Asking whether it's truly leading us towards a more fulfilling and meaningful existence.
Right.
You know, he always encouraged people to look inward.
Yeah.
To connect with their own inner wisdom.
Right.
And I think he'd be concerned about how technology can sometimes pull us away from that.
Yeah. And that actually ties in nicely with the text's point about Osho's appeal to foreigners.
Oh, yeah.
It suggests that they may have been more receptive to his teachings.
Okay.
Because they weren't approaching them with the same preconceived notions or cultural baggage as people from India.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if those cultural differences allowed them to see his message with fresh eyes.
Right.
You know, unburdened by those pre-existing frameworks.
It's like they were able to bypass those mental filters and just get to the heart of what he was saying.
Right.
And honestly, isn't that a challenge for all of us, no matter what we're exploring,
Absolutely.
to try and approach things with that same openness?
Yeah, Osho was a master at challenging those ingrained patterns of thinking, those biases that can really hold us back from truly seeing things as they are.
Right.
And that's a skill that's valuable in any context, whether you're studying spirituality, science, or just navigating everyday life.
Of all the ideas we've discussed,
Yeah.
which one do you think has the most potential to be disruptive? In a positive sense, to the way we view the world. For me, it's that idea of pure consciousness existing beyond time. It really makes you question everything you thought you knew about reality.
It's a powerful concept.
Yeah.
And one that continues to be debated and explored by philosophers and scientists even today.
Right.
You know, if our consciousness isn't bound by time, what does that mean for our understanding of free will, of destiny?
Yeah.
even the nature of the self.
Right.
It opens up a whole Pandora's box of questions.
And isn't that what Osho was all about?
Yeah.
Provoking us to question, to explore, to never settle for easy answers?
Exactly. He wasn't interested in spoon-feeding people dogma.
Right.
He wanted them to awaken to their own inner wisdom, to become active participants in their own spiritual journey.
This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to chew on.
Right.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of Osho's life and teachings.
He was a complex and often contradictory figure.
Yeah.
But there's no denying his lasting impact on modern spirituality. He offered this really unique blend of Eastern mysticism and Western philosophy.
Yeah.
Challenging conventional thinking.
Right.
And pushing people to confront the big questions about life, death, and the nature of existence.
I have to admit, I went into this with a lot of preconceived notions about Osho.
Yeah.
But I'm walking away with a much deeper appreciation for his message.
That's true.
He may have been controversial, but he was also undeniably brilliant and thought-provoking.
And that's the beauty of engaging with these challenging ideas.
Right.
They push us to expand our own understanding, to refine our own beliefs, and ultimately to become more conscious, more awake human beings.
Well said. So to our listener, we leave you with this final thought.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to question, to explore, to challenge the status quo. Embrace that spirit of inquiry that Osho embodied and embark on your own journey of self-discovery.
Love it.
Who knows what you might uncover along the way?